Welcome to House Education on Tuesday, May 20th. The committee is discussing changes that have been proposed for H480 so that we can be well versed on them when the bill makes its way back to us. And we have two witnesses with us. We have the chair of the Senate Education Committee. We have legislative counsel. And we've walked through a bunch of this already. But we thought we'd hear directly as opposed to the what's the whys. So Senator Bongartz, welcome. And we can just, I guess, jump right in.
Okay.
Yeah. So we haven't seen this in a few days and haven't necessarily followed it. But if we go through the various sections, maybe you can tell us where you made changes.
I don't have my side by side with me.
Okay, I don't think there is a side by side yet.
We have one. There is one.
Oh, you can try it.
But we can just run through it real fast here. So the behavioral threat assessment team's implementation, language that came from us, anything there of substance?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't.
That's not one of the sections we focused on. So
All right, so I'm going to go to ones that you probably did. Flexible pathways.
What date was it voted on in the Senate?
it was on
I think it
Friday.
was last Friday, wasn't it?
No, 2 Fridays
Or Thursday.
weeks ago, last Friday.
So I think we could probably begin on section 9. This is the language on beginning the search for a new Secretary of Education.
Mhm.
And I think we just said that the search would start after 30 days and your committee changed it.
It's on 480.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was here on 454.
Oh, no. No, it was much easier.
This lady said.
Okay, I misunderstood. We were talking about 454. So I don't have anything with me, but go ahead and try it.
All right, that's good. I think you can probably. All right, so on the starting of the search for a new secretary,
Yes.
we had said it would start in 30 days. You changed it to that the governor shall send a letter to the chair of the state board asking for that to initiate.
I'm going partially from memory here, in fact, entirely from memory. We just wanted to make, I think the last time there was a search, there was some lack of clarity about what happened to happen first to get the thing moving.
Right.
And we just tried to put in a step process.
Well, the only difference I see between what we have sent to you and what you have here is that ours just said they would start within 30 days. Whereas yours says that within 30 days, the governor shall send a letter asking. It's very small.
Very small, but
But I didn't know if that was sort of a request that came from on high from the governor's office because it better matches current practice.
I think we did it because it better matches current practice, and they always wait for the letter. So we tried to make sure the letter comes relatively quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Because I want clarity on this because I thought ours was the 30 days, but this is actually 90 days. I just want to make sure that we understand that there is quite a significant difference between 1 month and 3 months.
All right, so ours originally said search will start in 30 days.
We were worried about that as being too quick given the way that the board operates and how, getting together. And actually then we got into this whole thing about what constitutes the start of a search, which is all coming back to me now. I think landed on getting it started with a letter from the governor. And then what do we say after that it moves?
Not later than 60 days.
Okay, yeah. And I think
That's also not later than that.
timeline, that's what kind of made sense to us.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, right.
Foundation for literacy. We didn't have that in there. We do know that this language seemed to be agreed upon by all parties to clarify to which grades the supplemental literacy was referring.
This was took more work than it was first represented to us that it was going to take. It was more complicated.
The literacy discussions.
Yes, and so what happened, we finally just asked the parties to get together and work something out and see what they came up with. I think we adopted it almost verbatim. From what came from, I think the three parties who we asked to be involved.
That was our understanding as well. The National Guard Tuition Benefit Program, we had in somebody from the Guard who spoke to this and also said that it's handled within their budget.
Yes.
Didn't require any additional spending.
Actually, that again took much longer than we might have expected to get that
Always
language right.
does.
Yeah.
Is the cardiac emergency response plans, which we had actually considered and then did not take action on, having been sort of swayed by the AOE that they sort of had it in hand. Move forward with language and then I think move forward with even different language after all the parties came to an agreement. Kind of talk a little bit about that process.
I think the AOE, just to be clear, I think the AOE would still prefer that we don't do it. But we just took the position in the end, after listening to all the testimony, that it was important to get this in place. Most schools are already doing it
Mhm.
and the people we heard from at some high schools just said, of course, it has to happen. And the athletic directors all said, of course. So I think there's probably is some small amount of expense associated with it. Some schools haven't done it, but we also had, I don't know if you did or not, but we had a young man who had been saved by one very recently, and that was compelling testimony.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
In on line 17, it says required staff training in CPR and AED use and practice drills. Is that specific staff or is that like all staff every year will now do CPR training?
It's not all staff. It's that relates to athletic events, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's athletic directors basically and team, what the coach is.
And again, I think we've all received emails saying that this language was compromised language worked out by all parties. Energy performance contracting. Somebody explained this to me, but I forgot.
This is the furnace thing, right?
What?
This is the furnace thing, like, there was a ceiling on the amount of money that they could borrow, like up to 10 years. But that was preventative, and so they wanted to create make it 20 or something.
Yeah, the payback is 20 years.
Right.
It's often 20 years. So they wanted to be able to do it without having to.
Get a vote.
And we got a note from the treasurer saying that from the treasurer's perspective, that we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
We requested.
So they support that.
And we have that. We can get that forwarded to you just for your records if you want.
School library material selection policy. This week, we had testimony on from VSBA saying that it was clearing up the who does procedures, who does policy. I think we had testimony also on the added language to the moratorium on approval of new approved independent schools, particularly from the middle school. Yeah.
For therapeutic.
The therapy.
Yeah. That was if they might, they just want to be clear, even though it's probably clear anyway.
I think directions.
All right, well, let's talk about the big one, which we really appreciate you taking up at the last minute and tagging on here, which is phone-free schools. I'm going to just sort of run through the changes and ask folks if they have questions about the changes. So just the secretary in coming up with the required model policy is now, in addition to consulting with VSBA, would also consult with the Independent School Association and a representative from the Vermont Coalition for Phone and Social Media Free Schools. There was a change from using the word Bluetooth to wireless capabilities. And it actually caught my attention as well. Under exceptions for people on 504 plans and individual health plans, language added to sort of accommodate students who might be international and therefore they don't have things like 504 plans. We had approved by an administrator for academic reasons, purposes. This added in athletic or co-curricular purpose for the limited use reason, most limited use reasonably possible. And then the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. So those are the sort of the additional exceptions that were added to the bill. Does anybody have any questions about me?
I
Rob?
just don't know what the McKinney-Vento is.
So this, well, since you guys made the change, why don't you go ahead?
No, actually, you did it because it came from Senator Ron Hinsdale.
Okay,
And
so I think it really originated with one of our representatives who works with homeless population, saying that there are cases where, and I know, I don't know, I am having trouble imagining what those are, but where the ability of a school to connect with and communicate with a homeless student has to be done through social media, for whatever reason that might be. And therefore, that's required, it's required communication. If that's the only way they can do it, that's sort of creating an exception.
Okay, and that's,
And McKinney-Vento is sort of the federal law that governs
oh,
homeless students.
okay, I didn't know it was federal law.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since this is a belt to belt policy, why was athletic or co-curricular added? And why did we bring in reasonably possible as opposed to as use possible? So why did we bring in athletic and co-curricular? And why did we change it from for the most limited use possible to most limited use reasonably possible?
I guess just there should always be some reasonableness standard. There were, I can't remember all of the testimony about the athletic and co-curricular. It's just sometimes being off-site ski hill where you need some of those for reasons I don't fully understand. But that's why we added the language about under very carefully circumcised.
So you're saying like if it was one of the ski schools and it's middle of the day and they're skiing on the midday practice,
You might need their smart
they might need to be able to get contact with someone on the mountain.
That's right. That's right.
Athletic tracking
Yeah.
with smartwatches. We heard some testimony about
And
that.
there were changes from Visa.
But yeah, and Visa, yeah,
Curious as to what the reason why they went with it.
it was actually, no, it did actually come from Visa. That's what, but it actually then bled into other parts. But Visa talked about the ski academies actually, and how their days are much longer. And half the time sometimes they're in class, then they're on the hill, then they're back. So, and being on the hill, then actually being able to tell where kids are and communicate, that was part of the reason.
I think that may be it. Could you tell us sort of status of the bill, where it is, where it's headed next? Or do you expect any further changes with it?
I don't think so. And I can't remember if it went to finance or appropriations. It went to one, do you know which one?
Appropriation.
Appropriations.
Okay.
Or which section was?
I have no
Okay,
idea.
okay. I can't remember either.
Right.
Some thing,
It never went to our appropriation.
no, I don't think there's going to be any issue.
The National Guard. That's already.
It's already in there.
For an additional appropriation, but they may need to look at it
Appropriation.
anyway.
Yeah.
It does have the number in there, so maybe that under the rule made it go there,
Existing.
even though it's in the budget. So my guess is it's in and out of there fast.
So Senator Hardy was talking about an amendment dealing with CTEs. Do you know where the status of that is? Is that
Yeah, we're actually taking testimony right now.
so would that be a floor addition?
It will be a floor amendment.
Okay.
And it is, to do something that, I think
Well, yeah, you don't need to.
Well, so
It's one of those
I will
things.
tell you that our mantra with this bill has been nothing controversial. Because if we don't want it to get derailed, because there's some stuff in here that has to get through. So, once we got to the point with a few things that for a while were controversial, then they became no longer controversial. We put them in. The literacy thing was like,
Yeah.
that was controversial for a while. And the credit bill had potential credit, but it ended up not being controversial. So, if we do have a floor amendment, we're going to make sure we're going to accept it only if we're convinced there's no controversy attached. That's why we're taking as much testimony as we are on what may in fact be a pretty benign amendment having to do with almost repeating what's in current law, as I understand it, about kids being able to go from one district to what's CTE in another if there's not space available where they are. But that testimony is going on as we're sitting here.
Okay. Yeah, great. If just tell me the results of what your committee sort of decides to back or not on that. Basically, because we have part of our day tomorrow scheduled around watching that testimony. But that would only be the case if you were going to include that in the.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably decide today.
Yeah.
And I did receive another amendment that we haven't talked about yet in committee. Changing slightly the way that the Secretary of Education is appointed in the criteria, and that one.
Great. But we'll look forward to what you guys end up sort of doing or not doing with that. Thanks very much. And again, the quick sort of work and turnaround on the cell phone and social media stuff is great. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have time to take it up for a long time, and then we found the time, so we did.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. See you again.
If you want to give us 30 seconds, that'd be great. Any questions for legislative council?
How you feeling?
Yeah, what's up?
How's it going?
Was there a side by side in Senate Ed? I can't find it.
At St. James Legislative Council, no, I have purposely not done one waiting for the floor, knowing that there is at least one amendment.
I think that comment was made when he thought we were talking about.
454, yeah.
Okay.
So he was relieved to find out we were only here about 4.
Hey, good.
Just in terms of the cell phone bill that we drafted, it's still, I'm looking for the language, it's still a bell-to-bell policy.
Yes.
I vote for
Okay.
dismissal, I think are the words they use.
Okay, and did we take care of the boarding school issue with that, with kids living on campus?
It's on page.
I think so because of the administrator approval.
Yeah, and also as they go to create the required model policy, they have to consult with the independent school.
Okay.
Yeah, like my hope is that if it makes it through with the changes to academic, athletic and the reasonably and all that stuff, that hopefully when it gets to the model policy, like they will make sure that doesn't get, if it gets through their side, it doesn't get like too muddy.
Very
Like, to guardrail that a little
I
tighter.
was thinking like, you could it'd be like a judgment thing, like, well, the kids are going out to the ski hill. Well, then it's sort of like as, we were talking about field trips.
Yeah.
You.
And that's where I think it's a little, that waters,
Coach, right?
Before we
The
continue,
waters it down
any-
too much.
Any other questions for legislative council?
oh, sorry.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. So everybody's clear about the path here. We're going to just whatever the term is.
Concur?
Concur. You-
Okay. We're hoping we can concur.
Two amendments.
Yeah.
and
Somebody that will.
I'm gonna guess it will come as we see right here.